The Book of Judges, session 53. Today we start with chapter 16 of the Book of Judges. Then went Samson to Gaza, and he saw there a prostitute, and he went in unto her. And it was told the Gazites, the people from Gaza, it was told them, saying, Samson has come here. And they compassed him in, and they laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city. And they were quiet all the night, saying, in the morning, when it's day, when he wakes up from his prostitute and he gets out of her bed, then we are going to kill him. So Samson lay until midnight, and he arose at midnight, and he took the doors of the gate of the city, and the two door posts, and he went away with them, bar and all, and he put them upon his shoulders, and he carried them up to the top of a hill that is before Hebron. What treasures are hidden in this text? First of all, we do understand, Samson, you're supposed to be a Nazarite, you're supposed to be a Hebrew, you're supposed to keep the Torah. You're going into a heathen prostitute. It's worse enough going into a prostitute. It's worse enough sleeping with somebody whom you're not married to. But you have to go into a prostitute, and you were actually in love with your wife in the previous sessions. And above all, she's now a heathen. She's from Gaza. Ay, Samson, what were you thinking? But leaving the physical side of Samson's disloyalty on the one side, because we have discussed how Samson is an amazing picture of the Antichrist in a lot of stuff that he does, and an amazing symbology of our own fleshly nature, our fallen nature that we are finding ourselves in as humanity. But how in not what Samson did out of his flesh, but the stuff that Samson did every time he got into trouble. Every time there is such symbology of Messiah. And of course, that is what we are going to concentrate on today. So you want to make some notes. We are reminded that Samson, the name in Hebrew means like the sun. And we've discussed that, how Messiah, the Son of righteousness that rises with healing in his wings, the light of the world. So Samson went to Gaza. Gaza in Hebrew means the strong, or the fierce, or the very strong, fiercely force. So Samson went to Gaza. The one who's like the sun went to an area that is called strong and fierce. And he saw there a harlot. So we are reminded, a prostitute in the Bible, God's own wife that played the harlot, Jeremiah 3 verse 8. And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had to put her away, and I had to give her a bill of divorce. And although God never divorced Judah, her treacherous sister Judah also went and played the harlot, or played the harlot means you are playing the game of prostitution. So both of these, verse 9, Jeremiah 3 verse 9, it came to pass through the lightness of her prostitution that she defiled the land. Alright, so we know that Samson, who's like the sun, went to the strong, fierce area, and there he saw the harlot. So Yeshua also, he is in this strong kingdom of the enemy, where the enemy has made his wife to become a harlot. Okay, so in Samson's flesh, he went into her, but as we see, the whole reason of the Bible stories is to teach us that God is the husband who wants to have this yada, intimate relationship with his wife. And of course, unfortunately, in this story of Samson, we see God is, I'm not comparing God to Samson committing adultery here. I'm comparing them in the sense of how this one who's like the sun goes and sees the prostitute that has no idea who he is and how wonderful he is, and he wants to have that relationship with her. I hope you with me see the bigger picture. So the people from Gaza, the strong, fierce ones, they compassed him about in the night, all right? And they said, we are going to wait for him in the city gates because he has to come out sometime. He has to wake up after his drunken prostitution during the night. And then he's going to probably walk through the city gates and he's going to go back home. So we'll just wait here for him in the city gates. But they compassed him. They circled him. They waited for him. And this takes me to Psalm 22, verse 16. Where David is talking about his own life, but of course he's prophesying about Messiah. For dogs have compassed me. The assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. So just like the Gazites were encircling Samson in Gaza, so the dogs, the Gazites, the pagans, the heathens, the wicked ones are compassing around the one whom they have pierced his hands and feet off. And then Samson lay until midnight. So Samson didn't, spend the whole night and then, he fell into the trap. He probably knew that once they know he's in the city, they're going to do something like this. So he only lay snoring and sleeping after his wonderful time he had until midnight. And there's something significant in that specific time. He lay until midnight. Exodus 12 verse 29. And it came to pass that at midnight Yahuwah killed all the firstborn of the land of Egypt. Midnight is the time of judgment, when this God of the Bible is reserving his power to show the heathen who he is, to show Israel who he is, to show the world who he is. He's exerting his power of destruction for all those who does not want to commit to and proclaim and accept the fact that Yotevave is the only God. So Pharaoh and Egypt didn't want to yield to the power of God. So at midnight he rose and he caused them destruction. Matthew 25 talks about the 10 virgins, the 5 foolish and the 5 wise. And Matthew 25 verse 6, and at midnight there was a cry, and it said, behold, the bridegroom has come. Go out and meet him. Then when you're ready, you can meet him. When you're not ready, you are going to find yourself in a dark place with gnashing of teeth, far away from his presence. You'll find yourself under judgment and not under acceptance at midnight. When Naomi explained to Ruth that Boaz is her kinsman redeemer, when the old Jewish woman explains to the pagan girl who accepts the God of Israel that Yeshua is her redeemer and she must come under his mantle, under his robe, she must go to his feet and lay down by his feet so that he can put his robe over her, his wings, his kanaf, so that he can make her again his bride. Ruth 3 verse 8, and it came to pass at midnight that Boaz jolted awake, and he turned himself, and what? There's a woman lying at his feet. At midnight, when the bridegroom wakes up, then he sees there is a woman. She has understood the message of midnight. She is the 5 wise virgins. She wakes up at midnight. She keeps her lamp burning, and she came to him because he is her kinsman redeemer. She came to him at midnight. When he comes, she's there and she's ready. Because this bridegroom who's like the sun, who's not afraid of Gaza, the fierce, strong kingdom of the enemy, he is coming back. And he's coming back for his bride, yes, but he's coming back for judgment. And he will take away everything of the wicked people that they hold dear. And the whole Job the middle of chapter 34 talks about this wicked, how the wicked think they can just continue. God says in Job 34 verse 20 through this book Job, in a moment they will die. You know, these persons and princes and kings who are wicked and evil and ungodly. In a moment they shall die, and the people shall be troubled. When? At midnight. They will pass away, they will die, and the mighty shall be taken away without human hands. All this happens at midnight. Midnight, the judgment hour, when this bridegroom returns. Because return, he is going to return. For the Son of Man, Mark 13 verse 34, is like a man taking a far journey. He left his house and gave authority to his servants, and he gave to every man his work, and he commanded the porter to watch. 3 very important stations of our service in his kingdom. Watch you therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house comes, whether he's coming at evening or at midnight, or when the cock crows, or in the morning, lest he comes suddenly and he finds you sleeping. Most people are sleeping at midnight. Most people are going to be asleep at the midnight hour when he comes, and then they're going to be knocking at the door, and he's going to say, but I never knew you. You never spent time so I can explain to you the significance of my Father's words. And because you choose to rather sleep and slumber, slaap nog 'n bietjie, slymer nog so rukkie. What's that verse of Solomon? Proverbs 6 verse 10, yet a little sleep, just a little bit more slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. So will poverty come as one travels, as they attack you like an armed man. So at midnight, Samson rose, and he took the doors of the city and the 2 posts. So let's stand a while still here. He took the doors of the gate of the city and the 2 posts. So a door always has 2 posts. You've got your left-hand side and your right-hand side. You've got 2 door posts holding the door in place. You know, your vertical door post. And then, of course, you've got the cross beam, your horizontal cross beam at the top. But the 2 door posts always makes me think of the 2 shoulders of the high priest, upon whom there is 2 precious stones, representing the house of Israel on the one shoulder and the house of Judah on the other shoulder. It reminds me of the 2 pillars of the temple, Boaz and what's the other one? Yachin, Boaz and Yachin. Those are the 2 pillars of the temple. It always makes me think of the 2 tablets of stone of the commandment that was written. And so we can go through scripture and we find 2 everywhere. You've got 2 covering cherubs. Everything always goes to symbolize the 2 houses of the kingdom of David. And so on his shoulders, like the high priest was carrying the 2 houses of God, so Samson was carrying on his shoulders the 2 doorposts of the city's gate. So he woke up at midnight, he took the doors of the gate of the city and the 2 posts, and he went away with them, bar and all, and he put them upon his shoulders. You can see the symbology in that. So where were the Gazites? Did they go back home and sleep until the morning? Did they think they were going to, quickly catch him before the cock crows? Because it says they compassed him and they laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city. But yet somehow at midnight they were so fast asleep, and I cannot, don't tell me they didn't hear when a man came, broke down the 2 pillars. How deep must you have a hole in the ground to put a very thick, strong wooden pillar in there that's going to hold a huge wooden door, a city gate. It's not just a door like in your house. This is the gates of the city. It's massive. And where were they? What were they doing while Samson was pulling these out like two little popsicles out of the ground and then putting it on his shoulders and carrying it all the way up the hill? I don't know. Bible doesn't say. But what the doors and the gates always make me think about is Psalm 24. And I know that you know the psalm. It's a psalm of David. The earth is Yahuwah's. The fullness of the earth belongs to God, all the world and all them that dwell in it. For he has founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods. Who shall ascend into the hill of Yahuwah? Who shall stand in his holy place? Only he that has clean hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul into vanity, and nor sworn deceitfully. He shall receive the blessing from Yahuwah, and he will receive righteousness from the God of his Yeshua, salvation. This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek your face, that seek thy face, O Jacob. So Psalm 24 is talking about who are the people of God. And then David says, we are the people that are seeking you. And then God answers. When we say, we are seeking you like this, O Yahuwah, he answers and he says in verse 7 of Psalm 24, lift up your heads, O you gates, and be ye lifted up, you everlasting doors. Why must you be lifted up? Samson lifted up the gates, and he took the door and he lifted it up upon his shoulders. And it's like the gates were lifting up their heads as they were put upon the shoulders of Samson. Like the high priest wears on his shoulders the yoke of the two houses of the people of Abram, Isaac and Jacob, always having issues and problems, and poor old Moses and Aaron had all their days, but so does Yeshua. He says, my yoke is not so heavy. My burden is actually light, because he is the high priest, and his yoke, his burden, are the two doorposts. It is the two houses of his Father's kingdom. But he's teaching us that we as the gates, we mustn't think that we are too heavy for him to carry. He says that his yoke is light, because he is the strong one. Gaza is not the strong, fierce one. The one who's like the sun is the strong, fierce one. He's not afraid of the enemy. And he can take the doors and the gates upon his shoulders. It is not too heavy for him. So as we are put upon the shoulders of Yeshua, we need to lift up our heads. Why? Lift up your heads, O you gates. Be lifted up, you everlasting doors, so the King of glory can come in. Who is this King of glory? Yahuwah, strong and mighty. Yahuwah, mighty in battle. It is repeated because as Samson went to Gaza, Gaza is strong and mighty, but our God is stronger and mightier, and he carries the doors and the gates on his shoulders, and we are lifting ourselves up so that this King of glory can enter through us. And we lay down our clothes before him as he rides on a donkey. Your king is humble and meek. He rides on a donkey. Let us lift up our gates and our doors and open the gates and doors of our hearts, our souls, our minds, our intellect, our homes, our churches, this world. Let us open our gates and be lifted up our doors so the King of glory can come in. Lift up your heads, O you gates, and lift them up, you everlasting doors, so the King of glory shall come in. Yes, he shall come in. And then it's repeated, who is this King of glory? Yahuwah Tsefaot, the Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. And this talks about Yeshua, because the Lord of hosts, Yahuwah Tsefaot, we met him already when Joshua asked the commander of the army who he is, and he said he's the commander of the heavenly host. He is Yahuwah Tsefaot, the Lord of hosts. So Samson lifted up the two doorposts and the door of the city gate, and he went away with them, and he put them upon his shoulders. Let's look at the word for shoulders. Our Messiah has put a very heavy wooden bar upon his shoulder. We must not forget how he carried the execution stake up the hill. Samson carried all these heavy wooden bars on his shoulders up the hill before Hebron. Yeshua carried it up the hill. John 19 verse 17. And he, bearing his cross on his shoulders, went forth into a place called the place of the skull, which is in Hebrew Golgotha. This is our Messiah, bearing this wood upon his shoulders. Because his shoulders is the picture of his strength. When a man has broad shoulders, you say, "Ooh, that guy is strong. Look at his arms, look at his shoulders, look at his biceps." Because the authority is actually always pictured by the shoulders of the king. Isaiah 9 verse 6. For unto us a child is born. Yes, he might be a child. The first time he came, he didn't conquer the world. A child is born. Unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his what? Upon his shoulder. On his shoulders. He was carrying the piece of wood that would cause his death. But it's because the government of that piece of wood is upon his shoulders. Because that piece of wood represents the two doors, the two houses, his kingdom of his father. The government of this kingdom he carried upon his shoulders. God gave him that authority. But to take that authority up, it had cost him to first bear upon his shoulders the pain and the humiliation and the death. But through that, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to him. And even before he went through all of this, Father already placed the government upon the shoulders of the one who is the Son of righteousness. And he's the one that is represented here by Samson. And like I said, Yeshua, it's not too difficult for him. We are not too heavy for him to carry upon his shoulders. He says in Luke 15 verse 5, this is the parable of the lost sheep, and we know that the prostitute represents the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the whoring wife. The man has a lot of sheep, and then when one is missing, he leaves the 99, and he goes and he looks in the wilderness, and he looks for the one that is lost until he finds it. Luke 15 verse 5. And when he has found his lost little sheep, his whoring wife, his repented child, he lays it upon his shoulders and he rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls all his friends and his neighbors and he says, "Rejoice with me." After we are finally carried on the shoulders, we are carried now. We have been carried by this shepherd, by this Son of righteousness, by this strong and mighty child, little baby that was given to us, God himself, that manifested in the form of man. When he has gathered all his lost sheep upon his shoulders, he will rejoice as well. After he has come at midnight to destroy the wolves and all the rebellious sheep, then he's going to put us upon his shoulders and he's going to carry us over that threshold one final time so we can be with him forever and ever. And in the meantime, don't you think for 1 second that just because you are not seeing that you are being carried like a piece of doorpost on the shoulders of Samson up this hill, just because you can't see that doesn't mean it's not happening. But as you are carried on the shoulders, do what Psalm 24 says you must do and be lifted up. You are lifted up. Just recognize that. Be lifted up and open yourself up so that this King who's carrying you can one day come through you as the gate and he can enter into his rest with his whole kingdom, with his wife. Because he is our high priest. He's the one that has done absolutely everything for us. But we do not forget his most important work is Exodus 28 verse 7. And it shall have the ephod, the garments of the high priest that is made of blue, purple and scarlet. And you know that the veil that separates God from people is made of blue, purple and scarlet. And you know, blue represents the Torah and scarlet, red, represents the blood of Messiah. And when you mix the Torah and Messiah, you get purple, you get the king, the color of the king. Exodus 28 verse 7. And this blue, purple and scarlet beautiful garment shall have 2 shoulder pieces that is joined, chaver. Hebron in Hebrew comes from the word geber. And joint in Hebrew is chaber. And chaber or geber means to be joined as friends. Chavrim, shalom chavrim. Peace to you, my friends. The joining of the 2 shoulder pieces is where the people that believe in God comes together and are geber, joined as friends, joined as brothers. Where the 2 houses come together as a joining, finally, as one nation, one kingdom, one tabernacle again. But the 2 pieces are joined together at the edges thereof, on the shoulder of the high priest. And the girdle of the ephod shall be the same. There is gold, blue, purple and scarlet and fine twined linen. And you shall take 2 onyx stones, and you will grave on them the names of the children of Israel. 6 of their names on one stone, and 6 of their names on the other stone, according to their birth. And you will put these 2 stones on the joining of the shoulder pieces of the garment of the high priest, so that the high priest wear on his shoulder the 12 tribes of the people of God when he goes through the veil to bring glory and honor to the God that has made a relationship possible with human beings. I love the book of Judges. The Son of Righteousness, with healing in his wings, wants to gather all of Israel upon his shoulders. And that includes bringing the prostitute to repentance so that she can turn back to her husband and be betrothed again out of every tribe, nation and tongue. But not all whoring wives will repent. And the whores that had such a great opportunity to make friends with Samson and to love him and to be faithful to him. His first wife wasn't faithful. These Gazites wasn't faithful. Delilah's not going to be faithful. But unfortunately at midnight, this strong, mighty one who's like the sun stands up. And if you are not on his side, you are against him. You're either for him or you're against him. And if you're not for him, if you don't come under his wings, you will find yourself together with the rest of the whores and the prostitutes and the Gazites and the Midianites and the Philistines and I don't know what parasites all of them are, but you will find yourself under the judgment at midnight. So rather be joined to this God now. Rather let him carry you upon his shoulders all the way up the hill that is before Hebron, Geber, brothers in Messiah. There's a friend that's closer to a brother, a friend that believes with you and will stand with you and will hold fast to the understanding of this amazing God who has been trying to get his bride back to him, his lost sheep, his divided kingdom restored for such a long time. But it's only being done by the one who is willing to carry the 2 doorposts, the execution stake upon his shoulders up the hill. He went up the hill of Golgotha then, but when he comes back, he's going to go up the hill of Hebron and he's going to make his divided kingdom, Chavrim, friends, closer than brothers and sisters. We will be cheber, joined, united as one. Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Echad. He is one. We must Shema, O Israel, become one, so that we are these two doorposts, these two sticks of the prophet Ezekiel in chapter 37, these two pieces of wood that can become one, Echad, in the hand of the one who carried the execution stake on his shoulders. One, like the one who carried the two doorposts on his shoulders.